too many Republicans chose power in riding with Donald Trump as opposed to patriotism in America.
On Thursday was September 12th, and that was of course, the day 3 years ago when I went on ABC This Week, and they had me, of course, on the show. Was several different people on there, including Governor Chris Christie. And remember, he had done this big old speech at the Reagan Library, and all of these people were touting his speech and how wonderful it was, and how he called out Donald Trump, and how he challenged Donald Trump, and all this sort of stuff like that. This was we had put out the graphic, and this here was the graphic we put out. And so we go on the show, and I don't have anything to do with the topics they bring up. I had nothing to do with it. And so they decided to talk about, during one of the breaks, they said they were going to talk about his speech. And I remember the sister Yvette, she was like, y'all going to bring that speech up? And I ain't say nothing. But inside, I was like, oh, hell yes, bring that speech up, because I got to light this ass up. Well, that's what happened. And let me tell y'all, when the show was over, my man Christie walked off that set like he had gotten beat with some baseball bats. He was red-faced. Man, I found out 2 days later, he went to the ABC execs, said this was an ambush. First of all, how's it an ambush? You're a contributor, and I'm a guest. Y'all picked the subjects. I had no control over that. He just got mad because I ate that ass up, and it trended for 4 days. Got 1 million views in 24 hours, and it was trending literally 4 days later. So y'all, ABC This Week ain't invited me back since. I have not been on ABC This Week since this happened 3 years ago. But this is also why you got to say what you got to say, because you know what? It ain't guaranteed they're going to invite you back anyway. So this is what happened 3 years ago on ABC This Week.
Chris Christie, he was referring, of course, to former President Trump, also went to a police station in New York yesterday, complained again about the rigged election. You gave a major speech at the Reagan Library this week where you said it was time to face the realities of the 2020 election, renounce the conspiracy theorists and the truth deniers. So you're on a collision course with former President Trump.
No, I'm on a course to try to make sure that my party remains rather relevant in the political conversation in this country.
Maybe it becomes. Aren't majority? You're seeing more and more Republicans are now saying they're buying in to the conspiracy theorists.
In the end, I do think that it's moving in the other direction. I think it'll continue to move in the other direction. And what that speech was all about was to repeat what I said with you on election night. You know, at 2:30 a.m. on election night, when the president made the speech that he made, President Trump made the speech that he made, I said it was unfounded and that there was no evidence of anything like what he was talking about, and he needed to stop. And I've consistently said that since then.
It's taken hold among Republicans.
It's taken hold among some Republicans, George. But I think what you're seeing over the course of time as this continues to move past election night and the emotion of an election is that more and more people are saying that that's not true. And by the way, it's also incumbent upon all of us in the party who don't believe it's true to speak out, because you're not going to convince everybody overnight. The same way we're having the conversation about vaccines, and you're not going to convince certain people of certain things. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with friends of mine who are smart, good people who aren't vaccinated.
So are you getting blowback?
I mean, listen, a little bit, but much more praise than blowback for the speech. And so, but in the end, that's not why I gave the speech, to either get praise or worry about blowback. You say what you believe. That's what I try to do here every week when I'm on. And I said what I believed on Thursday night, and it's what I'm going to continue to believe.
I just think for 4 years, we watch Republicans either be silent or be complicit in the building of the monster that is Trump. And even post-Trump, there are still Republicans who are bolstering him, supporting him. So I feel like too little, too late. The reality is real leadership is stepping up to the man at the time he was in the seat and saying that we won't budge. And there was none of that. And unfortunately, I don't know what the future of the Republican Party is there's so many folks who are now swinging closely. We think about the 47 states that have legislation trying to keep people from voting based on the big lie that we know was not true. We think about January 6th and the insurrection that happened on the structure of democracy itself and democracy. And there are Republicans who don't want to have an investigation into that. So this Republican Party is way far gone, and unfortunately, too little, too late.
Hold on, I want to get another Republican perspective here from Sarah Isger. They're seeing debate there. Chris believes the party's over time moving in this direction. Yvette disagrees.
I think that perhaps we will finally see what we didn't get to see in 2016, where there were 17 candidates, nobody dropped out so that you could have the one-on-one versus Donald Trump. Perhaps it looks like Donald Trump is going to run again. We're certainly told that by all of his advisors and by all accounts from him. If it is Chris Christie versus Donald Trump in the Republican primary, Republicans will have a choice. And certainly Donald Trump is in some ways at his weakest that he's been since he left the White House. And in other ways, certainly what he has said and Trumpism has picked up within the party. It will be up to Governor Christie to make the case that there is somewhere else to go. But I do think if Trump runs, he may be alone in that lane, and that could be helpful.
I'm sorry. Republican Party, they made their choice.
Yes.
And I appreciate the speech, Governor, but the reality is this. You have to admit, Sarah, you have to admit the role that you played in putting the person in leadership who is driving conspiracy theories. It's one thing to condemn them after the fact, but you have to own up to the role that you played in putting the person in power. The time
We both ran campaigns against
No. Let me finish.
First off, I don't have to admit, First off, I don't have to admit anything to you.
Can I finish?
First off, I don't have to admit to you. And second, I ran against Donald Trump in 2016.
You also coached him for the debate, sir.
You ran against, here's the deal, you ran against him, but when a person has principles, morals, and values, they do not support them even if you lose.
Right.
And what they say is, I choose patriotism and the country over party and power. And the problem was too many Republicans chose power in riding with Donald Trump as opposed to patriotism in America.
I'll sleep fine tonight with you judging my morals.
Well, guess what? As a voter, as a voter who has 13 nieces and nephews, what I also want to see in America are Republicans and Democrats who have the guts to stand up to narcissists, to folks who lie, to folks who sit here and lead a country in the wrong direction. And what that man has unleashed on this country, any Republican who stood with him has to own it and accept the role that they played.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'll accept the role that I played in the 2016 election running against him, and I'll accept the role.
Let him finish his point now. Let him finish his point.
And I'll accept the role that I played in my belief that Hillary Clinton was not the right person to be president. We all get to make choices, Roland, in this democracy. I made my choice. I'm on record of my choice, and I'm not walking away from my choice. But it does not preclude me from being able to be critical when the person that I did support does things that I am against. And so this false choice that you're trying to set up, it's a false choice and one that the American people are not going to buy either.
Roland, let me just press one other point. Right now, I would argue that the fact that so many Americans can't buy into simple facts is probably the biggest existential threat we face to our democracy. So when somebody speaks up for that, isn't it something to be praised?
Facts are critically important. But again, when you support someone who said fake news, when you were truthful and then push that, then when you have the networks and the conservative radio talk show hosts, that whole echo chamber driving that's the problem. I am a native of Texas who is still registered there, and I am dealing with Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick, who is consistently lying and making things up, and you're dealing with that. I'm dealing with people who are changing textbooks. Well, here's the deal. I have a very basic principle since I've been a journalist. If you do good, I'll talk about you. If you do bad, I'll talk about you. At the end of the day, I'll talk about you. And somebody has to say what others are afraid to say.
Sarah, you get the last word.
If you want to persuade the half the country that voted for Donald Trump in 2016 to move to your side, then you've got to stop villainizing them. You've got to stop having these conversations where everyone who is not with you is against you. And when someone says that Donald Trump did something wrong, you may want to consider praising that and trying to use that to persuade the people who are not going to be persuaded by what
that is going to have to be the last word. This debate could obviously continue. I'm sure it will in coming weeks.
Yeah, they ain't want to continue that debate. Like I say, Christie was hot. He went to the principal's office and whined and complained, and ABC News ain't invited the brother since. Even when the sister Kim Godwin Black was the president of the network. But guess what? I don't take back a damn thing I said, because everything that I said then has applied. In the 3 years since that took place on September 12th, 2021, everything I said has come true. You Republicans are standing with this thug. You got Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, who was ripping him during the primaries, standing right now supporting him as well. This is what many of them do. They fall in line, and bottom line, Congo, this is their fundamental problem with the Republican Party. They do not have any guts whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely right. And to be quite honest, your other clip that you played on abortion, that's also something that's also aged pretty well. I mean, you got all the classics. And when they have the same repeat playbook, we have to make sure that we're repeating it, because they win off of repetition. And they believe that if they just keep saying something long enough, that people are going to start believing it. And so when I see people tell you, Roland, oh, why are you wasting your time on this person or that person? It's because of the fact that you have to counter it. Because when people look up their speeches and all of this other ignorant stuff, you're going to be right there on the play next. And the fact that there hasn't been enough fact checking, there hasn't been enough countering these folks in real time, it's how they get over. It's how they continue to get over. And so in every space, whether we're in media, whether we're in our universities, whether we're in our workspaces, whether we're in our social media spaces, when we know the truth, we have to call it out, because unfortunately, hearing it from one of us might be the first time these guys actually hear the truth. So many people are in their ecosphere and in their own little silos, and we have to continue to call out this nonsense, because really, I believe, look at Christie. I mean, he's probably going to be endorsing Kamala soon. And these guys ain't never going to apologize to you. They're never going to say Roland was right. But, hey, we just got to keep putting it out there and let the facts speak for themselves, because nobody can say that Black America didn't warn y'all about what was coming. Look where we are now.
It was funny, Julian, because after that, I swear in 22, 23, Chris Christie was sounding like me. He should have said, my bad. You were right, Roland. I should have stopped being defensive and said you were right. And so, I mean, literally, ever since then, he been sounding the same way. I'm like, hashtag, we tried to tell you.
Roland, first of all, you were looking good on that the shot. I like the little outfit you had on.
Well, I had to hit him with the gray and white pinstripes and the fuchsia, because I can't wear them bland ass, them boring ass blue and black suits. I can't do that.
But you look good. I'm gonna give you props. You look good, and you got off of the gold and black spit that you often.
Don't hate Alpha reigns supreme even over deltas. Go ahead, make your comment before I cut you. Go ahead, make your comment.
Okay, let's move on to the politics. Chris Christie, all of them are crazy. They're all kissing the ring, and the ring is the devil's ring, and everything you said is correct. These Republicans, and many of them know better. We know many of them. We talk to them offline. They say, oh, blah, 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 blah. But online, they are in formation with the Trump nonsense. And that's the problem, is that there is no integrity in the Republican Party, none whatsoever. So they will go along, they will kiss the ring, kiss the feet, kiss the butt, just kiss, because they want to stay relevant. The relevance would be if Republicans would unite and say, this is not who we are. Over the years, next Sunday I'll be 71. Praise the Lord. I've been doing politics since I was 18. So it's 50 plus years of doing politics. I've had Republican friends and colleagues and great people in my life, but I've never seen this level of acquiescence that you know the devil, you call the devil privately, but then publicly you say, oh, yes, we're going to support him. And that's where we are. But you called it. It's correct. Chris Christie used to be thought of as a good guy. There are a whole lot of them who used to be thought of as good guys. But now they want to be at the table. They want to have an opportunity. And in having the opportunity, What they really want to do is to kick the American people in the hind parts. That's what's happening.
Listen, Renita, you got some people who are upset. All right, we lost Renita's signal there. And here's the whole deal. You got some people out here who are upset that Dick Cheney endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. And, oh man, this warmonger. Okay, I don't like Dick Cheney. But even a Dick Cheney is saying that I believe in the Constitution so much that this man cannot, under any circumstances, be back in the Oval Office. So I don't have a problem with a Dick Cheney endorsing a Vice President Kamala Harris and the Governor Tim Walz. I don't have a problem with the number of former Reagan officials that have come out. I don't have a problem with 200 people who served under Trump endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, because they are speaking to exactly what I was saying 3 years ago, that there comes a time when you have to make a decision, and that is, do I have morals, values, principles, and ethics? Do I care more about patriotism, the Constitution, and the country over party and power? And so these are individuals who do not support Vice President Kamala Harris and her policies, but they are making a judgment by saying that this thug, this grifter, this trash of a human being, Donald Trump, should never be allowed not only back in the Oval Office, he shouldn't drive by the Oval Office. He shouldn't fly over the White House. This man should not get intelligence briefings. None of these things should happen because he is corrupt and dangerous to this country. And so I have no problem with with Republicans, people who are still Republican, say, I cannot do it. What I was talking about there was, Renita, was the likes of Bill Barr, who would sit in interviews and trash Trump and talk about him in a negative way, and then get to the end, yeah, I'm gonna still vote for him. What the hell was all you just told me? And that's my point. There is a time when you say that the country and the Constitution is more important than my party.
Yes. Roland.
No, Renita. No, hold up. Renita's back. Renita.
Okay, cool.
Disconnect around why they can say so many bad things about Trump and then say that I'm going to vote for him is because Trump is still doing the number one thing that they want, which is that he advances white supremacy. And so to me, it is no secret that they can all go and list out everything they hate about him, but they still know and that he's doing one thing that's still consistent, is that he is advancing white supremacy, and that is what their vote is based on. It's not based on upholding the Constitution. It's not based on upholding democracy. It's not based on having a country that is not facing civil unrest. It's not based on any of that. It's just based on advancing white supremacy. And so that's what they like about him. He will continue to do that. And that's why I don't give all this credit to Republicans who are now suddenly saying, oh, I can't stand with Trump. Because where were you? Black people said from the beginning, when Trump came down the escalator in 2016, that this would be bad for the country. Trump would be bad for the country. This was not a good idea. They did not listen. They didn't listen to anybody who understood the level of attack that he was going to level against most of the country. They stood with him because, as Dr. Malveaux said, they want to be relevant. That's still the case. And as long as he continues to advance white supremacy, they are with it.
Well, I have no problem saying that the decision they make today is smart. Like I said, I called Christian and others out saying you played a role in this. But as some folk finally woke up and found Jesus, I'm not going to complain about when they were in the club and when they were drinking and they were smoking. So I can fully accept that.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. America's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.